That's right, folks. Hit that like and subscribe button. You're welcome back with Fireside with the Colonels every fortnight, but not always every fortnight because we tend to be a bit busy. We do it as often as possible. It's Fireside with the Colonels with Colonel Wyatt Toit in South Africa, and this is Colonel Chris Wyatt here in central Pennsylvania. Wyatt, hoe gaan dit?
Yes, good evening. No, it's going well. No complaints. It's still winter time here, and we will still feel the cold more or less until the end of August, September. And then it will start to get very extremely hot.
Yeah, that's my timing is perfect, isn't it? The saddle season. I won't be hot and I won't be cold.
Yeah, well, I've ordered you a big jacket for the evening to wear so that you don't get cold on the stage.
All right, it's very kind of you. I appreciate that. For folks who don't know what we're talking about, I think most people here know that it's the Colonel's Tour of South Africa. I'll be touring South Africa, not like a rock star, but just doing it for lots of reasons. Meet and greets we'll be holding, including an event on the 20th of August in Uppington, which Wyatt and his folks have put together. There was limited seating. The venue holds 200. I understand it's sold out. People are coming from Cape Town, Bloemfontein, all over to hear us discuss things, comfort stories. It ought to be really fascinating. I'm really looking forward to that portion of my trip. Then meet and greets all over the country, at least 5 already confirmed with the location and RSVP numbers you can reach out to, and many more coming along the way. Of course, this is all contingent on airlines. I just saw another 1,000 flights were canceled this weekend here in the U.S., so I mean, the airlines have got to get me there. Otherwise, the whole timetable is upset.
Yeah. No, but I believe everything will work out well, Chris, and you will arrive on time, everything. And I think that the meet and greets that you are planning for the different stages, there's a couple of people that have asked me, and I've told them, listen, just watch the program, you are advertising it, and it was people from Mossel Bay who actually asked me, and I said, well, at Santos, in the pub at the train, you will be there, and after all, that's a great place to have a meet and greet. In Afrikaans, we will probably call it a drink and brill type of thing, which you are having. But I think the people will support you well. There's a lot of people that ask us to come to this function. It's unfortunately, we are fully booked. The venue takes just over 100 people. We have stuffed in 200 people. We're putting up a marquee tent, those large tents outside. It calls for a lot of, the sound management that must be done well. We will broadcast it live the evening. People have asked about it. And of course, we are looking forward to it. And people are coming from all over and from afar for the weekend. And to spend as much time as they can with us. And then, of course, looking forward to your piece on the Saturday night. And I think you will be on stage with another 4 colonels, so we will be 5 on the stage. And the master of ceremony will also be a colonel, and the guy who is buying for us the South African snacks. Not barbecue, and I promise you we won't bring a hamburger patty close to you.
Will there be any kudu there or something like that?
Yeah, we will arrange everything so that it is real nice. But yeah, and we will probably talk about quite a number of subjects, and we will play it according to the people, the audience, and the reaction that we are receiving. And we will intermix it with some campfire stories. We will talk about Russia, Ukraine. We will talk probably about South Africa, the situation here, the threats and the opportunities, and where are we going in Africa as a whole. And, that's the type of subjects that we will cover, but I will more or less guide the chats so that we can get your message across, and that the people know, and that maybe we will even include a question section part of it. And of course, it's a huge thing for Uppington, and we are going to use it also to launch my wife's book.
Oh, okay.
Which she has written about the Congo, Brazzaville, Congo, for the about the time that we spent there together when she was on the farm with the kids, from a city girl to a Congo girl is not an easy transition, but it's a nice opportunity so that we can also launch the book, which will take between 20 minutes and 30 minutes. And of course, a buffet, dinner, and drinks will be there. And yeah, it's going to be a great evening. But that's not the only thing, Chris. When you arrive in Uppington, we will book you in. You are sleeping at the venue, at the casino, and there will be some people with you. So whenever you need something, you just do this, and somebody will bring it. If you want a beer,
I've finally been promoted to general officer ranks.
Well, so there will be guys with you. And then immediately afterwards, we are going to our offices where I will give you a briefing on our emergency initiative, on how it must play out or can play out, as well as then immediately after that, you are going on the radio, Groot Rivier Radio Groot Rivier, where again Francis will do the interview with you.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then she told me that I'm only allowed now to speak English in the house so that she can pick it up again.
Say that again. She's only allowed what? I think I heard that, but say that again.
She said, I'm only allowed to speak English in the house now until you are
arrive. Okay.
So that she can,
gotcha.
Can jack up her English.
I thought that's what you said. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's the thing. That's the thing, and for those who know a bit about me, know that I understand Afrikaans, maar ek praat nie Afrikaans nie, because I don't get an opportunity to do it. It's a language you have to hear, you have to engage with it. I mean, some languages, you're sterile, you can learn them by reading a book and you can listen to tapes and you can learn a language, but with Afrikaans, you've got to be around Afrikaners, people speaking Afrikaans, and so I've never spent prolonged periods of time with Afrikaners, just a day or here or there or a weekend, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I've never, so I can learn it and understand it and read it and get things out. I think a couple weeks ago there was some people were typing in the chat and they were speaking Afrikaans, and I looked over and I instantly translated in English, and they're like, "Whoa, okay, I guess he does understand what we're writing." It was kind of entertaining. I can't pronounce it, but I can understand it. So, no, it's that's the thing with language. It's a perishable skill. You've got to use it or lose it. So it's a good idea that you speak English in the house till I get there. But it's okay, because when you and I talk, it's interesting, because when you and I talk, if you're searching for the word in English, oftentimes I might have a hard time finding it, and then you'll say it in Afrikaans. I'm like, oh, that means this in English, and so it's kind of fun. But language is a funny thing. But this sounds incredible. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. I have to say this, and since you and I are here chatting, I want to thank everyone on your team and everyone up there for the fantastic welcome. I mean, if the rest of the trip went to crap, I'd be very disappointed, but I wouldn't say that the trip to South Africa is a failure just because of this portion. It's really amazing. I've never been to the Northern Cape. It's so far out of the way for most of my travel in South Africa that I never had an opportunity to go there. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic and amazing. And beyond that, I have to say this to not just your team, but everybody in South Africa. I have people that they're bending over backwards to produce T-shirts for the tour so that I can take T-shirts with me, because I know people are going to want T-shirts, that sort of thing. Also banners and then business cards specifically for the tour. Others who are scheduling interviews on SABC, of all places, the propaganda network, but that's fine. Any exposure is helpful. And then the speaking engagements I'm going to, the presentations I'm giving to kids at schools, going to an orphanage, and then beyond all of that, people of course, in South Africa are very generous, even though it's difficult times economically. People have reached out. They've paid for lodging for me on some of the nights, or they've arranged for free lodging at a bed and breakfast or hotel where they know someone and they got it, gratis, and then complimentary. And then other people have offered their homes. People have offered rides and cars, but I'll tell you, I will never drive someone else's car. That's something I'm not comfortable with. That's like putting someone's underwear on. I won't wear someone else's underwear. I won't drive their car unless we have to run from Toit, or something like that. Then I'll drive your car in emergency. But yeah, go ahead.
That statement you've made now, you are going to be sorry about it.
What about the underwear or driving somebody's car?
No, the driving the car. But now you must remember, we won't allow you to drive any car. But the road that we are going to take.
Yes.
On Saturday morning, quite early.
Yep.
Lead us straight up north. And on that piece of road, the speed limit is 250.
Yeah, I know that. I know there's no speed limit 250 in South Africa, but I know how people drive.
Yeah, but our cars can't do that. But anyway, it's just interesting to know it. And then I'm going to take you up for a little bit of nostalgia and have a look at Botswana.
That'll be
we
brilliant.
Can't cross into Botswana, but at least you will have you can put your arm through the fence and collect some sand. Take it with you back to the United States.
Yeah, no, Botswana's an amazing place. I've always loved it. I'm not so happy the direction it's headed right now under Masisi, but it's always been a wonderful country, really good people. And, a lot of people don't get Botswana. They don't understand it. They don't understand why it was, so successful and what's happened there and the nature of the history, the fact that it never was really technically never colonized. It was just had a protectorate status. And also just the people there, the Tswana people. And also there's Afrikaners there. There are a fair number of Afrikaners. You've even got coloreds, in the part of Botswana we're going to be at, you've got coloreds who've crossed over back and forth. They have relations and ties there. Yeah. So it's a fascinating place, and of course, the Kalahari is amazing, and it's just everything about it's pretty cool. So I never in my wildest dreams imagined that I would get to live in Botswana, be stationed there, but that's for African foreign area officers in the Army. There aren't many tours that they can sell to convince you to go to Africa. Botswana is one of them. It's not hard. So that's kind of seen as a reward. So after I was in Liberia, where there was no power, there was nothing. It was all broken, conflict. I'm rebuilding an army there, very austere conditions. After that, they looked to reward me, and they offered me for Botswana. I'm like, okay, I'll take it because it may never come again. But I didn't go to Africa, for aircon and hanging out in embassies. I went to make a difference. But surprisingly, I got to make a huge difference in Botswana. It was amazing. It was a fantastic experience. And of course, because I was so close to South Africa, I got to go to South Africa all the time as well. So, yeah, but these days I can't go into Botswana because you have to have a negative test. And if I go in for a day, you have to have a test within 24 hours or 48 hours. And then if I'm only there for a day, I have to use the same test or get another test as soon as I cross the border. And if you get a test and they don't work very well and it says you're paused, then you're trapped. So people are asking me about coming to Botswana, and I've actually got a few viewers from South Africa who relocated to Botswana a couple of years ago. My advice, they didn't do it because I told them. They were asking about Botswana, and I told them what it was like. And I can't come because it's just going to be too dangerous. If I cross the border and I get a test and it says I'm positive when I'm not, or if I am positive for this Rona thing, then I'm stuck in Botswana and everything on South Africa just falls off the table, and I can't take that risk. So this trip will just be South Africa, which is unusual. I usually hit a couple countries when I go there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, cool. That sounds great. Really looking forward to it.
At that point, you will also be right next to Namibia.
Yeah, it's the Trans-Kalahari Park there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the three-country national or international park, we should say, because it's three countries. Yeah. I've never been there, so that's going to be another experience for me, too. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be fascinating. I'm sure that we won't let people down, but I hope that they find the experience enjoyable. I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, I'm sure they will. People are very excited about it. But just bear in mind, the Kalahari got a lot of naughty boys.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So you might be hurt on the Saturday evening, but not physically, but yeah.
Well, one of the things when I worked with the Botswana Defense Force we dealt with was poaching. across that border, right in that area. They had to deploy BDF units down to that region because a lot of the folks in the color community were crossing back and forth the border, and they were poaching wildlife and then shipping it to zoos around the world through South Africa. And that was kind of a big deal. I don't know if that's still going on, but I imagine it probably is.
I've got a couple of guys on that side that can probably inform us exactly what is happening with that. But I think the most important part is the very good relations that exist between the farmers in South Africa and the Botswana government. Mm-hmm. Because there was a huge fire in Botswana, I think it was about a year ago. Mm-hmm. And through all the diplomatic channels, there was no means of making contact. And then the farmers just dropped the fence, drove over with their firefighting equipment, and helped the Botswana people extinguish the fire. Mm-hmm. And that went down very well. They received, I think, an official thank you letter from the president of Botswana. But from our government side, they didn't even manage to contact Botswana.
They probably didn't have the number.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. It's not surprising. It's interesting. I saw today, of course, our Secretary of State, Foreign Minister, I call him Wink and Blink and Nod, like, the reindeer, but Antony Blinken is in South Africa at the Bilateral Commission. That's something that's been going on with the U.S. and South Africa since about 1995. And usually a high-level official. The first one to ever go was our Vice President, Al Gore, went to it, but it's usually the Secretary of State or someone like that. But this year they're doing it, and he's there. And I listened earlier to his speech. He's talking about how South Africa is so important in world affairs and on the global stage. I'm like, are you lost in a time bubble? I mean, I love South Africa, but it doesn't matter internationally these days. They've ruined it. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it is because South Africa didn't take a firm position between the Ukraine and Russia in the war.
That's why he's there.
Yeah, that's why he's here. Because when Lavrov visited Africa a week or so ago, he went to quite a couple of states, and it says if the US suddenly realizes, hey, we are behind now, we must also go to Africa. So they go to different countries in Africa.
Yep.
And it is as if there is a new scramble for influence in Africa at this stage, or support, or what else you want to call it. But it is understandably because of the international situation, because there's more and more a feeling of under Biden that the United States is losing support throughout the world. And for many people, they see the weak Biden administration as an opportunity, which they are going to explore. And you will remember, I told you a year ago, if I was China or Russia, I would have attacked now.
Yep.
That's why you all of a sudden get this attitude from Saudi Arabia, attitude from Iran, and all those, in India, and all those countries. And suddenly there's a very large force in the world arising, and the European Union suddenly looks very frail.
Well, with good reason. The European Union, quite frankly, it's got all kinds of problems, not the least of which, and Angela Merkel really precipitated this with her allowing millions of illegal criminal aliens to invade Europe, encouraging them to come up through the Balkans and then camp out in Hungary and Austria and places like that, which really angered those countries in Eastern Europe, Central Europe. And then, of course, these migrants are just shopping for destination. They're not truly refugees. If they were refugees, they would follow the international norm. The first safe harbor you reach is where you apply for asylum. And that, in that case, of most of these people, that was Turkey or Lebanon. And, they went there and they decided they didn't like that. They want to go to Germany or to the UK. And so they fled Europe. And they wind up there. The Hungarians built a wall. They put fences up. They stopped them. They were called racist for that. Interesting that they were called racist because other folks want to stop them too. But yeah, no, it's the European Union is very fragile. If it wasn't for the poor condition of the dollar a decade ago, the Eurozone would have collapsed. When Greece was on the verge of bankruptcy, they were bankrupt technically. Greece, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and even Ireland, because Ireland's office boom had died and they had overpriced properties and the market was collapsing. There was actually depression. Prices were coming down, deflation. And all of that happened simultaneously. And if it wasn't for the fact that we had quantitative easing, printing more money here in America that didn't exist, and our deficit spending, which weakened our currency, at that time, if that wasn't the case, the euro would have collapsed because international traders would have abandoned the euro and they would have fled to the dollar and the euro would have collapsed and the European Union experiment would have been put on hold or slowed down. But yeah, European Union is very fragile. Since Biden has taken office, 9 days after he took office, Myanmar's military overthrew a democratically elected government, a corrupt government, but a democratically elected government. They've imprisoned the president. They've executed members of parliament now for treason. And Joe Biden did nothing. He said nothing. 9 days after he took office, 6 weeks after he takes office, Putin puts 70,000 additional troops on the border with Ukraine, and Biden says nothing until he falls below 40% in the rating in the polls in December, and suddenly Ukraine is a big issue. We make no effort at deterrence by doing bilateral exercises or making big bones with Ukraine. So we precipitate and encourage this conflict. He is so weak, and that's the bottom line. At the end of the day, when this is all over, the reason we're going to find out that Vladimir Putin went into Ukraine is, of course, he's always had designs on it. He's always wanted. Look what happened under Obama. He stole Crimea without even any protest. He occupied and annexed Crimea. And we're going to find out it's because Putin made the calculation. I'll never find a stupider, dumber, disorganized, disengaged moron in the White House than I have right now. So now, because he didn't attack when Trump was president, because I think he's probably a little afraid of Trump. What will Trump do? He's a wild card. But that's why he's doing it. And Iran is taking steps. North Korea is launching missiles again. China is firing missiles. They've completely surrounded Taiwan. The entire island is surrounded. They're doing live fire exercises. The Taiwanese fishing fleet had to return to shore because they were being shot at. Now, they say they weren't shooting it, but you don't fire live rounds in the direction of an island. And then, of course, they're firing ballistic missiles into the Japanese airspace. All of this, and Joe Biden is worried about, what your pronoun is and, what your gender is, and making sure that he hires people based on their skin color. No, we're in a crazy world, and it's a lack of leadership on a global stage. Meanwhile, Russia and China get together before the invasion, and Russia is pretty much shielded from all the sanctions because the Chinese are buying their oil, they're buying their cobalt, they're buying their gold, they're buying their timber, they're buying everything, and they're getting food from Russia too. And so Russia's barely been impacted by this. It's just crazy. Go ahead. Sorry.
But America should feel safe.
Safe from what?
Now, because you got Nancy Pelosi there, it seems to me as if she can do anything.
Nancy Pelosi. Hey, before we go any further, I got to say this. I was looking in the chat and I looked over, and for those who don't know, I'm a fan of Afrikaans pop music, among other things. Also, what we would call in German Heimatmusik, which is kind of the traditional, sort of thing. But I'm not sure what you call it in Afrikaans, but excuse me, it's Heimatmusik in German. But I looked over and I saw a name, and it said Die Colonel hat een prachtige Boerbad, which says that Colonel has a lovely, a beautiful, pretty beard. And it says Rihanna. And at first saw it, I thought it said Rihanna. I'm like, Rihanna is here? She's watching my program? It's not Rihanna, it's Rihanna. But welcome, Rihanna. I just happened to see that over there. I thought maybe it said Rihanna there at first. I got really excited. Not that I'm not excited to see Rihanna here, but if it was Rihanna, I'd be like, whoa, that'd be pretty cool. Of course, she's from Namibia.
Well, I can assure you that there will be a couple of celebrities watching you on the 20th, because they all know that you are here and that you are going to be live from South Africa. But I actually wanted to say it's a couple of guys in the United States that is also watching, that I know, who is friends with me. A South African there, Desmond Farmer. He will be listening. And hi, Desmond. And Richard Hamlin, he's always listening. Still very strong supporter of the Boeren in South Africa. So yeah. But anyway, Chris, what do you think? it seems to me as if Trump is going to stand for president in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And if I listen correctly, he will definitely win.
Well, it depends.
What?
Go ahead.
Say again?
It depends.
Yeah, but it depends on what?
It depends on the integrity of our election, and I can't say much more because YouTube will censor the channel. But the Democrats from 2017, after he won and got inaugurated, to 2020, they filed over 300 lawsuits in America quietly while most people weren't paying attention. To be honest, I was busy wrapping up my military career and traveling and giving speaking engagements, so I didn't pay that close attention. But I began to discover it around 2018, 2019, that they were filing these lawsuits to change our election laws, to remove requirements for photo ID, to allow for mail-in balloting, all this sort of thing. So if that stuff is not controlled or limited, then I can't predict that Trump will win. But if it was a legitimate, free and fair, and there was nothing untoward happening, he would win hands down. Yeah. Anyway, so go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Let's go to 2022 now with the congressional elections and the Senate and those things. If the Republicans have a good majority in Congress, what is the possibility that they can ensure that the elections got the integrity that it needed?
Well, the thing is that the elections, and that's a good question, Vine. I'm glad you asked it for our audience here. About 170 people, folks. Hey, be sure to hit that like button, folks. It's right down there.
That was easy.
Yeah, see, it's easy. I got my easy button here from Office Depot or Staples. Just push that button down there. And if you're not a subscriber, become one. Hey, subscription is absolutely free. You're listening to Fireside with the Colonels with Vine, Toit, Chris Wyatt. This is our fortnightly program, and we talk about campfire stories, trails from the trenches, our experiences, and we talk politics, USA and South Africa and other places. But your question was about the election. Let's see. Let me try to frame it again. So it was. What was the question again? Sorry.
Yeah. If the Republicans take control of
okay, that's where I was going. Got it. Okay, thank you. That fired the neurons. I found the file on the hard drive up here now. Okay, so the deal with that is that for people outside the U.S., it's a lot, and even in the U.S., Americans don't really understand the way our system is done. We don't have national elections. There's no such thing. Now, we have candidates for national office like president and the vice president, but that's really it. The other offices are all representing the states. The senators and the congressmen represent the states. So all of our elections are conducted by states or territories. And we have territories like Puerto Rico and Guam, plus a place like that. So the states conduct the elections, and they set their own election law. Every state has different election laws. Many things are the same. Obviously, you usually have to be 18 years of age. And there are some things the federal government can do to ensure homogeneity over elections. Like, for instance, we had a constitutional amendment so that every state in the country would allow 18-year-olds and older to vote. It used to be 21 in many states. Some states was 18. But beyond that, the federal government doesn't have a lot of say over elections. They try to, but the Constitution doesn't give them authority. So the states control it. And here's the thing. The Republicans, if they come in at the national level, there's things they can do, but it could easily be declared unconstitutional because power is not specifically delegated to the federal government in the Constitution, fall, and it says it right there in the 10th Amendment, fall respectively to the states or the people. Now, why by the people? Because the people can have something known we've never done before. It's known as the Convention of States. People in every state, when 3/4 of the states or 2/3, I think it is, when they agree to have a convention, then we would have a constitutional convention all over again. This has never been done in American history. There's a movement right now to make it happen. I'm concerned about it because, you could easily have buyer's remorse. They may think it's a good idea to adjust the Constitution, but by the people speaking, but the people aren't always so bright. So I'm a little nervous about that movement. But the bottom line is, even if the Republicans win in the fall, it's not going to have an impact on elections at state level. That is done like Georgia. Georgia just changed their election law, and Pennsylvania did it in 2019 before the 2020 election. But what will happen is the following, and this is what I hope with all of my my hopes and prayers, is that the Republicans have a red wave. And if all things were equal and there weren't cheating in November, the Republicans, in my estimation, would easily win 100 seats out of 435 that they don't currently have, which would be a tidal wave in the Senate or in the House. That would change the House complexion completely. I'm predicting they're going to win about 40 seats. But I think they could win 100. But I'm going to say with the circumstance we have now, and I suspect there'll be some, subterfuge going on, 40 seats, but that will swing the House to Republican control. The Senate, I can't predict. There's too much going on. We got a weak candidate here in Pennsylvania. This is a seat that's filled by a Republican. We might lose it to a Democrat. There's a seat in Nevada that could go Republican. There's a seat in Massachusetts, or in New Hampshire that could go Republican. So I can't predict it. But if they're going to win the House, there's no doubt about that. Republicans will win the House in November. People are hot for in this country, all this nonsense. They're going to win. How big they win is what matters. The Senate, they might win. If they win the House and Senate, then they can write legislation. They can put it in front of the president, but he can veto it. Now, they can override his veto, but it takes a 2/3, and they won't have a 2/3 majority, so they'll never be able to do that. So what they should concentrate on between 2022, November, and 2024, in my view, is investigations and impeachments into corrupt officials and the dereliction of duty by the Secretary of State, by the Transportation Secretary, by all of these clowns, and the president, of course, for high crimes and misdemeanors. If they want to use the political process of impeachment to illegitimately impeach a former official, Donald Trump, who's not even in office, which means there's no legitimacy to the trial because it's a political trial, and the only result you get from an impeachment is removal from office, not barring from future office serving, not prison, not any of that, because they have no authority. All you can do with an impeachment is remove an elected official that the people have chosen from office. That's what it's for. Or you can remove an appointed official through an impeachment that are presidential appointments, like the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense. So they impeached Trump fraudulently. He wasn't even in office. He was a private citizen. So if they're going to do that, I think it's high past time we start investigating the people for their failure to investigate the insurrection in Seattle, the summer of 2020, all the stuff going on in bureaucracy, spying on Americans using the National Security Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to criminally investigate Americans. All this needs to be exposed. The dirty deals that are going on, this bill that was just passed with $700 billion, and they've just raised Americans' tax. All of this needs to be brought under scrutiny. And I have no trouble with a Republican Congress spending all of its time in those 2 years investigating and bringing to light all the crimes of these corrupt individuals, because it's long overdue. Anyway, so that's, I hope that explains a little bit better. Even if the Republicans win in November, it won't have an impact on election law by and large. See,
I asked the question specifically.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Yeah, because there's a lot of interest. Because what is it's not a direct influence on us. It's not as if one president will do more or less for South Africa, and that's not my interest anyway. But it's all about liberalism and conservatism, and it's a good judge, is that the right word? Or it's a good gauge.
A good gauge, yeah. Good gauge.
How far is the world on the road of whatever you call it, liberalism or conservatism? Also about religion, is it important? And as a leader of the so-called free world, it is important for people to know what are the United States standing for. Are they in reality standing for against religion, against Christianity, or not? And that's the guidelines. I mean, the whole thing with Black Lives Matter is a thing that only the black population in South Africa probably support very well. It has become an issue for us because it's enforced on us. Our international sportsmen have to take the knee, they have to put their fist up in the air and all those things. So yeah, we use it as a gauge to see where are we standing in this world of craziness.
Yeah, it's a fair point. So here's the thing. The problem with the Republicans is the Republicans themselves. I often refer to the Republicans in Washington, D.C. as part of the uniparty between the Democrats and Republicans. And that's why we have these continued deficits. That's why we keep handing out, freebies to people which aren't free. I'm paying for in taxes and other people paying, and we're bearing debt on ourselves. So you've got that. But there's a distinction between the Republicans and conservatism. And the question is conservatism on the rise or on the wane? I think that conservatism is on the rise. The number of people that have left the Democratic Party in the United States and migrated to the Republican Party, either on the basis that they're angry with the Democrats or they're feeling more conservative. I mean, look, TikTok is a cancerous, application, on the internet, but it can be entertaining. And one of the things I find entertaining is they use the algorithm to see where your interests are, and they know my interests are conservative issues. So when I go on TikTok and I flip through late at night when I can't sleep and I'm watching videos, some of them entertaining, some of them silly, I get constantly videos from people who are hot full of this nonsense in the States. And so many of them are black. So many of them are black. They're like, listen, I was liberal. These people have lost their minds. What are they talking about? This is crazy. I believe in God. I believe in guns. And that's the thing. So many Americans are actually conservative in their orientation, and they just don't realize it because they've been indoctrinated since childhood with a bunch of nonsense in this country. Since time immemorial, I've always heard the line in America that, the Republicans, they're the party of big business. You may have heard that line too, even though you're in South Africa. The Republicans, they're in the pockets of Wall Street. That couldn't be further from the truth, Viant. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you look at 2008, and I always knew this, but this was the eye-opener. During 2008, Barack Obama ran against John McCain, and he railed, John McCain is in the pocket of Wall Street. Look, the Federal Elections Commission releases this data. It's a matter of public record. Look at the donations from Wall Street firms, financial firms, to Barack Hussein Obama, and look at the ones to John McCain. Obama got like $75 million total, something like that, from Wall Street. John McCain got like $5-6 million. It was dwarfed. And the reason for this is because Democrats are the friends of big business. Why is that? Well, because big business doesn't like competition, and governments put in rules and regulations which crush small businesses and entrepreneurs who are just getting by, getting an idea, working out of debt to build something to catch on. But the big ones, the Titans, the 3Ms, the General Motors, the Fords, the Boeings, they're huge. They don't want little scrappy competitors with better ideas and inventions come along and steal their market share. So if the government introduces oppressive accounting regulations that force these little companies out of business, or they can't comply with it, that's great. If the government comes up with subsidies for airlines, they love it because they get it. No one can start a new airline because they can't compete because their ticket price is being subsidized. So the lie is that Republicans are the friends of big business. It's the Democrats. Now, the Republicans are friends of business, but they're the friends of the small businessman, the entrepreneur, the person that wants to start out in Uppington and start a B&B. That's the kind of businessman that the Republicans like. And but the thing is that it's just crazy. The world. So back to your point, I was a little away from it. Back to your point. This election will be a barometer in a couple things. The unpopularity of Joe Biden, that's obviously the first thing that's going to be on the ballot. There's no question on the ballot, is Joe Biden unpopular, but that's going to be the result. Joe Biden's unpopularity. Number two is how far has America gone? Are we lost or can we recover? And I think the answer is going to be we can recover. It's going to be painful, but we can recover, and we're going to see what happens. And number three, I agree with you. It's a barometer for the world. Where's the world headed? Right now, the only countries holding the line on conservatism are places like Hungary and, Estonia. That's about it. A few little countries like that. The rest of the world has completely lost its mind. And all of this drivel, they're all lockstep. They want apps to spy on people. They want to force you to register, carry this around, carry that around. They want to take, the United Kingdom has banned demonstrations. You can't demonstrate in the UK. It's illegal. What is that? It's the land that gave us the Magna Carta, which limited the powers of the monarch, which started the move towards modern liberal democracy. Now, I'm with you. The U.S.'s election in November is a barometer for the world. And if we fail, the world's gone, brother. It's gone. It's gone. We're all going to have to get in our loggers, get our rifles out, and put up the walls and wait for the onslaught, because that's what's coming if we can't stop it here. The line must be drawn in the sand in the United States in the November elections of 2022. And if it isn't, then the world is lost.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think that's a great insight. I think most of our people feel very much the same in as far as the elections in the United States is concerned. But you say Hungary is one of the, Hungary and Estonia. But if we look at how Viktor Orban is now attacked as being, once again, pro-Putin, he's now become an enemy of the West. And everything negative is being coupled to him. And we don't hear the good news about Viktor Orban.
No, you don't. But I mean, look, that's all collusion by the media. Well, it's, I should be clear about this because I've talked about it many times. I don't think you and I have talked about it much, but I've talked about it on my program with others. The thing is that I want to say there's collusion in the media, and I know there's obviously collusion in the media between political parties. You see it here when all the media channels come out with the exact same adjectives to describe something when they attack someone as conservative Republican. But it's not just collusion. It's laziness. So, just a quick example, explain something to you here so it makes sense to your audience. Doug Mastriano is running for governor. He's a senator here in Pennsylvania. He's my colleague. We worked together at the U.S. Army War College, both of us our last tour. And then he ran for Senate. He got out about 18 months before I retired, maybe almost 2 years maybe. And so he ran. He's a little bit ahead of me on timelines of what he's doing. So he's a senator now, and he came out famously about the events of 2020 and became very popular. He's very well loved by, there's a super chat from Courtney McBride. I'll get to it in a second there. Courtney, thank you for that. And Doug Mastriano, the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is a leftist newspaper, doesn't like him. Philadelphia is a very leftist city and ridden full of crime. It's a disaster. So the Philadelphia Inquirer ran an article about 2 weeks ago, and they said that Doug Mastriano is deleting videos from his Facebook. Wait, what's going on here? Is there something? Is he hiding something he doesn't want people to know about? So they actually consulted a Harvard University disinformation expert. When did we get these people? I mean, I thought that was the Soviet Union. Disinformation expert. So they actually hired, and they quote the guy, and they talked to him. They interviewed the Harvard disinformation guy. And so I'm reading it, and I'm like, I don't see any note here, because usually in a news article, you'll see the Mastriano campaign did not provide a response when we asked for comment, or they refused to answer questions, or they said, there's no mention of that. So I'm assuming they didn't contact Doug Mastriano, but they're writing about him, and they're curious about his intent, why he would delete videos. So I had an interview with Doug Mastriano. I said, Doug, the Inquirer said this about you. To me, that's lazy journalism, or it's intentionally skewing the narrative, which is really what it is. I said, so, since they didn't take the time to ask you, Doug, why did you delete those videos on Facebook? And he explained why. And there you go. See, this is the problem. People aren't discerning enough to realize when they read that article, they go, "Oh, Doug Mastriano, he must be a racist, or he must be, going to change the laws and ban abortion because that's what I'm being told in the paper." Ask yourself this question: if they have to consult someone at Harvard University about disinformation, all they had to do was pick up a phone and call Doug Mastriano and ask him. And he could have refused. Then they could have put in the article. That's journalism. But simply consulting some disinformation expert, and so that's what happens all the time. Whether it's Melanie Verwoerd in South Africa and Nasper's publications, or a whole host of other people, it's not real journalism. It's not real. So it's a combination of collusion, laziness, and then the last one, which I saw 30 years ago, or developing, and 20 years ago I started complaining about this as an intelligence analyst, is that all the major news organizations, for profitability, because profitability became the most important thing. I'm a capitalist. Newspapers should make money, and it's lovely if they make lots of money, but they have an obligation as the fourth estate to hold the government accountable and to tell the people the truth, not to just opinionize all the time. But I saw this over 20 years ago. All of the major news corporations and organizations, newspapers and radio and television broadcasting, consolidated. They got rid of all their stringers. They pulled back all their operations. So for Africa, virtually every news organization not in Africa that covers Africa does so from Johannesburg. Now, I submit to you that Johannesburg is a long way from Brazzaville and a hell of a lot longer away from N'Djamena, and you can't accurately report on what's happening in Brazzaville and N'Djamena if you don't know Africa and you're not there. You can know Africa and have some information report accurately if you're not there, but they don't know Africa and they're not there. So the two of them lead to poor coverage of Africa, and that's kind of where we're at. And I think the media is directly responsible for much of the problem that we have. The other problem is that people just aren't critical thinkers. They aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. That I'm experiencing every day.
Yeah.
People are not thinkers, and they don't question. They just accept everything that is being pushed down their throats. But yeah, that's the way it is. Chris, yeah, I've asked you a couple of questions. Thank you for asking that. I think it will be great for the guys to hear your opinion on that as well. Because I must warn you, there will be some of that sticky bit of questions coming your way on the 20th.
That's fine. That's fine. Look, I mean, I think in the time we've worked together at a distance, I think you realize that I don't shy away from it. If the truth hurts, the truth hurts. America's got some
Yeah.
problems. We've got some serious problems here, which we've allowed to manifest, not the least of which is our deficit spending and our burying our country in debt. And our border issues here, which weren't fixed by Trump. He made an effort, but didn't succeed entirely. He improved the situation, but Biden is completely turning the other end. I'm happy to talk about, people ask hard questions. It's like, I get asked questions about America. Didn't America endorse slavery when they started? No, we didn't. That's a poor understanding of history, and I can explain to you what the situation was. But so Courtney McBride said, hello, brothers in arms. Greetings from an American sailor. Courtney McBride is a U.S. Navy Reserve, and he's sending a super chat. So thank you, Courtney. We don't see Courtney much except on weekends because he's busy during the week. But anyway, so yeah, no, I'm happy to take the difficult questions, and for the things that I know are facts, I'll answer factually. For the things that require my opinion, I'll be happy to offer my opinion. It's interesting, and we talk about the critical thinking, Viant. When Roe versus Wade was overturned here a few weeks ago in the United States, a 50-year-old Supreme Court decision which had no basis in the Constitution. It was entirely made up out of whole cloth. Whoop, okay, we're going to make the rule. And it led to the abortion of nearly 50 million Americans over the past 5 decades. Think about that. 50 million people not born because of abortions. Most wholly unnecessary. They should have been born. But anyway, that's a separate issue. When that was overturned, the left started running narratives. The newspapers, the television started reporting, abortion is illegal. Number one, that's simply not true. That decision didn't make abortion illegal. It simply said the federal government has no authority. And only the states can decide. Many states had laws that were in existence before Roe versus Wade in 1973, or 73, and those laws come back into effect. Some are very restrictive, some are very liberal, and then other states can decide this issue now. So abortion didn't become illegal, but people ran around with it. They freaked out, and people believe that. They actually believe that. So that's the first thing. Then they said, well, then they take it even further. Well, there's no gay marriage now. It has nothing to do with gay marriage or same-sex unions. That's a completely separate issue. But they are right to worry about it because that's also an unconstitutional decision by the court just a few years ago in 2015. There's no basis for the federal government saying that any union is legal, whether it's same-sex or heterosexual. They have no business in that. So that's probably going to be overturned. But then there'll be no interracial marriage. No, that's going to be a problem. That's not going to change. There's no basis for it. And then no contraception. It's illegal. This is all nonsense, and people don't think. They just listen and they believe it. It's like Donald Trump's a racist. Okay, tell me what Donald Trump did to show you he's a racist. Well, you've got not a single thing. Now, Donald Trump might be a racist in heart. I don't know, but everything he's done proves just the opposite. But people believe this stuff because they'll believe anything, and they don't think. That's how it is.
Yeah, you've just triggered the thought. 50 million abortions, 50 million less Americans. Blinken today said that by 2050, Africa will lead the world and make the decisions and build the world because they will be the most inhabitants.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I couldn't help to bring the two together. 50 million abortions, which they want to allow, is not applicable in Africa. In Africa, they just have children as many they like, and eventually they will be more than us.
Yeah, no, it's well, here in America, the abortions though are more disproportionately hit the black community. Margaret Sanger was an avowed racist, and she wanted the black community exterminated, and that was part of her stated goals. Her writings say as much, and she promoted abortion, and she is the grandmother of the abortion movement in America. We have 45 million black Americans, and we have usually every year 300,000 abortions of black children. Now, some of those are white women and Asian women, but almost 97% or more are black children from black parents, both black parents. Now, to put that in perspective, 45 million Americans, that means about, roughly speaking, 22.5 million are women or girls. Of that, of childbearing age, the number is probably about 8 to 9 million who could have a child. So the 8 or 9 million black women in this country every year that could have a child, there are 300,000 abortions. That is shocking. That is tragic. No matter where you sit on abortion, that's a very sad statistic. Let me deal with two things real quick to show you how easy it is, Vine, to just smack down leftist propaganda. You ready for this? I'm going to do it. This is in the chat. All right, here we go. First off, in the chat, Courtney puts something down. He says that, does anyone realize that Doug Mastriano has been in the news for anti-Semitism? That's something worth considering. Absolutely not, Courtney, because it's all horseshit. It's all Fedcock. It's all horseshit. Let me explain to you why. This is a made-up fairy tale story by leftist media propagating bullshit about a candidate they don't like. A patriot to this country who served decades. A person who has had invasive security clearance investigations of his personal life, of his financial life, of his background. He, like I, was an intelligence officer in the U.S. military, which means you have the highest level clearance. They interview everybody. They look at everything you do. If he was an anti-Semite, he would have been exposed decades ago. It would have been decades. So that's the first thing. Second thing is this is a bullshit story because his opponent, who's Jewish, is using his religion, he's a secular Jew at that, as far as I know, Josh Shapiro, to try to play the anti-Semitism game. Now, here's the thing. I interviewed Doug Mastriano, and I asked him about this issue because this issue came up the day before I interviewed him, so it was very timely. And I said, listen, they're talking about you bought ad space on Gab, which is like Twitter. It's just it's based in Pennsylvania, but it's a global site. And so you bought ad space there. They're trying to claim that you bought ad space there, and they're implying that you're anti-Semitic. I'm not aware of that. I've never seen any manifestation of it. So why did you buy ad space there? Is it because Twitter censored you? Yes, Twitter censored him, and he can't buy ad space on Twitter. But guess what? The Anti-Defamation League, Courtney, here in the United States, the Anti-Defamation League found over 1.4 million anti-Semitic tweets on Twitter in 1 year. Josh Shapiro advertises on Twitter. Doug Mastriano can't do that because of their censorship. So let me ask you a question. You have unsubstantiated nonsense, Courtney, that you're sending here and telling we need to listen to this story. It's bullshit. Doug Mastriano's not anti-Semitic. Josh Shapiro's anti-Semitic. He's a race hustler. He's a religion hustler. And these frauds on the political left who perpetrate this, and anybody that falls for this comment that Courtney just put in there, you're not a critical thinker. Ask yourself this question. How can the Anti-Defamation League, which protects Jewish interests, how can they find 1.4 million tweets on Twitter, and that's not an issue? But Doug Mastriano goes on Gab, where the guy is attacked as an anti-Semite without any basis in reality, and they don't show a single tweet, a single Gab post that's anti-Semitic tied to Doug Mastriano. It's all fiction. And because the media control the narrative, this is the story out there now. And people actually think he's an anti-Semite. It's disgraceful that anybody would think that about somebody without being fully informed. Hang on, Wyatt. I'm on a rant, so a little bit more. One more here. Courtney also said the 14th Amendment of the Constitution guarantees equal protection under the law. That's why gay marriage is Constitution protected. No, it's not Constitution protected. And that 14th Amendment, that clause does not have anything to do with gay marriage. That 14th Amendment was put in place because a racist in the Democratic Party who put in place laws to bar black Americans, who were all Republican at this time after the Civil War, from serving in office, from voting, by putting poll tax and putting literacy tests and things like that in place. The equal protection clause in the 14th Amendment is to ensure that former slaves who are now American citizens have the same protections, the rights to property, the freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. That's what it's for. It's not about gay marriage. That's a bullshit argument, just like all this leftist tripe. And done, dusted. Both of those things, Courtney, thank you for being here. I appreciate being here. Thank you for the super chat. It's good to see you again. But both of those are bullshit arguments, and I've just destroyed them without any question. There's no debate here. Case closed. Boom. I'm done. It's your turn, Vine.
Yeah. Now, interesting thing that caught my eye yesterday was in the business part of a newspaper where economist for a very well-known established South Africa financial institution said, well, the future of South Africa doesn't look so bad. He said, well, there's hope. Because Ramaphosa announced that they are going to invest in alternative sources of energy, and that will be resolved, and they will build a second Eskom and all those bullshit. And if that happens, then there is a future. And if it doesn't happen, there's no future.
Yeah.
So if you go and look And what happened just over the past couple of months, which was promised, but nothing has ever been done. They held meetings, they talk about stuff, they make announcements, but none of that announcements are realizing on the ground. So how on earth is Cyril's promise to change the energy situation around will now realize? But in the process, where this very influential company, where that economist made that statement, bring a lot of people under the false pretense of where we are standing in South Africa. But once again, the newspapers is very seldomly reporting on failed initiatives by the government and only announces what the government said they are going to do. Mm-hmm. So it is also a complete sort of a false narrative. That's just to take the pressure a bit off of the United States on this issue of the power. Now, we have talked. You have talked to many other South Africans, mm-hmm. probably with a couple of very interesting guys. I should introduce you to Ted Blom.
I've interviewed Ted Blom before. He's not been well. His health has been failing. He's a little bit better now. I spoke to him recently. Ted it was a fantastic guest on, and as far as I know, it was his intent that the interview with me was the last one he would do. I don't know if he's done any since then, but I don't push him. But I would like, Ted Blom is fantastic. He's really well informed in the energy situation. That's for sure.
I talked to him this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's fairly better.
Good.
And so that's an interesting guy to talk to, and what he is telling us about the energy situation and where we are standing. Then there's a shocking thing that is coming to light in as far as what is being promised and what is being done. Mm-hmm. And nothing is being done about the theft and the corruption, the sabotage in Eskom, because it don't suit the guys who is in charge. And I'm not talking about Andre de Ruyter, I'm now talking about the political guys who wants to buy this energy sector.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that. That's the thing people don't realize. You know, they want to attack Andre de Ruyter. He doesn't control this. I mean, he's like the Dutch boy putting his finger in the dike. You know, he's trying to hold back the dike collapsing, and he's doing an admirable job dealing with the fraudulent, the racist allegations that he's racist. That those allegations himself are racist, and then he's reduced the debt from 500 billion to 400 billion rand. But when municipalities don't pay their bills, and when people know that there's a load shedding, so the power's off, so they cut cables down and burn the rubber off so they can sell the copper, and the people that take recycled metal and ship it to China are complicit in this, you can't win this game. You can't win. It's a disaster. And then, of course, in the chat, people are talking about, the breaking up. Well, the breaking up of Eskom is all about patronage. This stupidity of taking one company and creating a distribution company, a generation company, and a retail company to deliver power, all of which are interdependent on each other. None of them can control the other one. And then creating 3 separate boards so you can put all your friends on there to get big salaries to do nothing. And then have 3 different procurement processes to achieve the same thing. Electricity to your home or your business should not require 3 separate companies. Now, 3 separate companies would be fine if it was the private sector and one was a power producer and another was a power producer, and go, okay, power producer A, this is, 10 Rand for a kilowatt. Power producer B, we sell it to you for 8. It's reliable. Well, everybody goes over there. That's how the free market works. Instead of fixing South Africa's energy crisis, the ANC has exacerbated it and is making it worse. When Eskom is broken into 3 entities, the whole thing's just going to collapse. The grid will eventually collapse for a number of reasons. And this is a bad situation. And most people don't get this. They don't get this. And you and I know what's going to happen. When the grid collapses, you don't just turn it back on. You have respirators that fail. People will die in hospitals. Medicines will go bad and spoil because there's no refrigeration, and you can only have generators to back it up for so long. And so much more chaos, looting, theft, no security lights, no traffic signals, accidents, people killed, pedestrians crossing the street because the traffic lights out and someone didn't see. That sort of thing. The chaos that will ensue. Never mind the GDP and the economic loss and all that is just incalculable. And this is on the horizon. South Africans need to be waking up and clued into this. I mean, if you can afford to get your own power generation, do it. I mean, whether it's solar panels or wind turbines, or you hire a guy to ride a bicycle and turn the chain, whatever you got to do. But you can't rely on this. The ANC is too busy looting South Africa. They're not a political party as much as a racketeering organization. It's like the mob. Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I left you speechless on that one there. I left the spot for you to jump in. I left you speechless.
When we talk about South Africa, I don't actually know what to say. Everything is so broken down, so buggered up. So there's no good news from South Africa, except that apart from all the negative stuff that is happening and the bad stuff that is happening, we haven't lost our humor yet.
No, you haven't. That's for sure. But I mean, listen. Okay, let's step back for a second. I mean, you're in it, and I'm viewing it from afar, and very soon from up close and personal again. But there are some good things. First off, the character and nature of South Africans, whether they're Venda, they're Xhosa, they're Afrikaner, they're Portuguese, whatever they are, the nature, the cultural, the collective cultural, because there's a collective culture, people have their individual, but there are things that are South African, not Afrikaner, not Venda, not Xhosa, not Zulu, things that are South African. Those things are very interesting, and they're resilient. And South Africans do have a sense of humor, particularly coloreds, but not just coloreds, but South Africans, and the resilience and also the generosity. It's there. The kindness, the genuine kindness of South Africans, and the ability to overcome things. I mean, look at the adversity that's happened in South Africa throughout its history for all ethnic groups, whether they struggled for and against each other, forming their nations, the Mfecane with the Zulu, and the Great Trek with the truck boers escaping from British rule, and then fighting Mzilikazi, and, allying with the Griqua and with the Basotho and the Tswana, and then fighting wars with the Basotho, and before that, the Xhosa and the Boers fighting in the Eastern Cape, the Great Fish River, all that stuff. The history is, and then of course the Khoisan, struggling for hegemony to survive. It's a long history, and South Africans overcome. They really do. It's a history of overcoming. The problem is that how much misery and suffering will happen until people overcome. And that's the sad part. And that's what we have to fix. That's why the ANC has to go. This is not a serious party. They were debating at their policy conference last weekend whether they should eliminate the step-aside rule. For those who don't know, the ANC, the ruling party in South Africa, has an internal party policy that if you are charged with a crime, you must not resign, but suspend your service in political office. Now, why does that matter? Because the people don't pick people in office. The votes are done in allocation and party. So the party picks the people that sit as mayor. They pick the council members. They pick the members of parliament and provincial legislature. So Wyatt doesn't get to go, I wanted Ramaphosa to be my president. He had no say in that. He could vote for the ANC, he could vote for another party, but then that's how it's done. So because of that, the ANC says, look, if you're involved in misdeed and you've been charged with a crime, you step aside. But they don't enforce it. And now they want to get rid of it. It just shows you how corrupt this party is, and they have to go. It's as simple as that. There's no salvaging the ANC. There's no hope for them. They've proven that under Ramaphosa. They had a chance to show they were a legitimate party and they could govern and they cared about South Africans. The only thing that the ANC cares about are caters. That's it. Privilege, blue light escorts, BE contracts, racist contracts for non-existent companies to make people. The amount of money that's been stolen will beggar the imagination if South Africans ever knew. This would be like Tunisians finding out that the Ben Ali family is actually profiting from all the contracts in Tunisia and the country went up in flames. If South Africans actually saw the true dollar amount and who got the money and how they got the money, and it ran through a list of this across the entire history of the last 15 years, people be in the streets with pitchforks right now. I guarantee it. Right now.
Yeah. The only thing is I'm afraid that we are not going to see 2024 because I expect an uprising long before that.
Yeah, no, Wynand, I said that in 2019, the deal is you've got to change things now by electing opposition parties to rule municipalities to show South Africans service delivery can be accomplished and you can have transparency and be honest. If you don't remove the ANC from a bunch of municipalities, then South Africa never make it to 2024. That's what I said, and I stick to that.
Yeah, and that is exactly the scenario where we are heading to at this present moment, and very fast and very quickly. We are on a downward spiral because the ANC is not going to relinquish power. And like all other African governments, they will stick to power and even use force to stay in power. And no matter how much people differ with me on that, the facts in Africa has proved to us that is what is going to happen in South Africa as well. But anyway, yeah.
Well, there's a question here in the chat, and I'm going to answer this one, and you can weigh in on it if you'd like. It's from Roberto Wilco, Roger Wilco. That's cute. He says, will black people vote for a white party? Well, first off, there's no white party in South Africa. Let me get us back on the screen here because I'm off the screen. There's no such thing as a white party. There is the media narrative that the DA is a white party, despite the fact that the majority of its voters are mixed race colored, not white. And then there's also the impression that Freedom Front Plus is a so-called white party. Now, that one has some currency from the origins of the party. It was founded by General Constantine Viljoen, and it was the Freedom Front, and then it became the Freedom Front Plus later on. But if you look at the Freedom Front Plus today, you'll find that black, Indian, colored South Africans vote for that party, and in increasing numbers. This last election, people might be surprised at how many voters that voted for that party weren't white, even though it has a perception of being an Afrikaner party. It's not really that. It's a conservative party. That's an accurate description. As far as the DA, if you look at the 2019 national elections, 2019, the DA, when they nearly took control of Gauteng, the reason they nearly took it from the ANC in 2019 was because 18% of the people who voted for that party were black South Africans. So black South Africans will vote their conscience. Not all, but certainly enough of them will if you can convince them that you're legitimate in what you're going to do. The days of people automatically lining up for the ANC are disappearing. The ANC is dead in KwaZulu-Natal. The party is fractured right down the middle because of the Zuma support for the radical economic transformation movement. So you essentially have three major parties in KZN right now. You have the Inkatha Freedom Party, which controlled just 11 municipalities before November. Now they control 30 of the municipalities, either outright or through a majority or minority coalition. Now, they only gained 2% votes, so it's not like it's a party that's on the rise. But because the ANC cratered and lost support, the IFP stayed steady and then picked up control of these cities. So that's one major faction in KwaZulu-Natal. Then you have the party itself, in which Sile Zikalala was just unseated, Ramaphosa's ally in KwaZulu-Natal as a provincial premier. The entire slate wiped out, Ramaphosa supporters, by, oh, here comes the coffee. I knew it was coming. By the entire slate wiped out by the radical economic transformation. These people support Zuma. And so you essentially have an ANC Zuma faction, ANC not Zuma faction in KwaZulu-Natal competing against each other with the IFP. And that's the future of the ANC. It's going to break into, it's already broken into COPE, which is kind of faded away now, but it had people forget it had 8.5% of the vote in the first election it stood for. And then it broke off with the EFF, which has got a peak of 15%, but it hasn't even got close to that. They're about 10% right now. And the ANC is going to break into at least two more factions, maybe more. And that's the bottom line here. The ANC is dead. It's dead man walking, and it's led by a cadaver. Cyril Ramaphosa. The guy is completely out of touch with reality. I mean, Wyatt, at his party policy convention this past weekend, he gets up and speaks, and he's being booed and everything. He's like, the ANC is back. We're showing that we're... What are you smoking, man? You got some dache there? You smoking some weed? What's going on there, man? It's like watching Cheech and Chong. License or registration. It's on the back of the car, man. These people are just delusional. Yeah. He's delusional.
Yeah, no... It is.
You don't know what to say to that. You're just kind of stuck for what to say.
I don't know what to say. I'm honest. I don't know what to say. Yeah. I just know that all this crazy happenings is leading us further and further down the path. and we are not going to turn this boat around.
It's too many things, right? I mean, it's too many things. First off, if you had the rule of law, you could fix it, but you don't even have the rule of law. 68 people per day murdered in South Africa. We see people walking into shebeens and just shooting people up. To me, I strongly suspect that's a coordinated thing that's being done intentionally to undermine governance and create insecurity and fear. That's my view on it. So you've got people walking to shebeens, shooting people up. You've got people being murdered every day. The wholesale theft, no one's being held to account unless they're small fry or a minority. Anybody in any influence of any power whatsoever is untouchable. Even if they're charged with a crime, they're never. Look at Julius Malema. Run through the list of his crimes. His hate speech. You know, Penny Sparrow was fined heavily for that, and Vicky Momberg became a felon and put in prison for hate speech because she was traumatized after being nearly carjacked and was angry at a police officer, and she was disrespectful to him. And for that, she had to pay him the equivalent of $15,000 and went to jail as a felon. Meanwhile, Julius Malema calls for the murder of people based on their skin color, and he's still walking free. He fires a weapon into a crowd up into the air, and then his team changes the receiver to deceive the ballistics experts. There's multiple crimes there. And then he assaults a police officer at Winnie Mandela's funeral on camera and tries to claim his dignity was insulted. What about the officer you assaulted in uniform and the situation created where you could have been shot? You could have been shot in that situation. All of these crimes, he exhorts his followers to attack Clicks locations, a majority black-owned BEE company in South Africa, and they petrol-bomb one of them. They destroy 43 Clicks locations, ransack them, and prevent people, pensioners, from getting their life-saving medication by going to the pharmacy, the chemist. All these crimes, the guy's not in jail. He's still running around getting interviews on BBC Hard Talk. There's impunity. Without the rule of law, you can't fix South Africa. You must fix the rule of law, then you can go somewhere. Bottom line.
Interesting that you brought up the attacks on the taverns.
Yes.
It happened in a relatively short period of time, which still tells me that it has been a coordinated effort. It has been discussed and it has been planned and it has been done. And all of a sudden, another attack happened a couple of days later, and then there's silence. They said to me that there was a meeting of some kind, of some sorts, where people have conspired to do this, to draw attention to either a cause or to start something. Because no revolution, just remember, revolution has started without creating violence by shooting incidents, by bombs, car bombs, etc. Because now you are starting to intimidate people by what you are doing. I'm just curious whether they have left a sign behind, because we can't get that out of the police or the press or what else. Did the attackers, what was the motivation behind the attack? Did they identify themselves with a mark? Is this the start of Malema's so-called revolution that they want? I expect that very soon things might heat up. I also want to connect, but I must be careful what I'm saying now. There's an increased activity military-wise and in combination joint exercises with the United States in the northern parts of Natal. Is it aimed at the ISIS supporters that is coming across the border? Can it be linked to the tavern attacks and the large numbers of fully trained supporters that is in Natal, KwaZulu-Natal? Are we sitting here with a group that is starting to move slowly to establish themselves, and who is also going to let's say, use the opportunity when the ANC collapse to grab control of Natal? So there's a couple of interesting things that is happening, but if you carefully connect the dots, it's all playing a role.
Yeah, it is interesting what's going on in KwaZulu-Natal. You know, a lot of people have been talking about Cape secession for a long time. I've told people, I said, yeah, you know, that's interesting, but you need to pay attention to KZN. KZN succession might be coming before Western Cape, and it might be by force of arms. It's pretty crazy what's happening there. And I don't think they honestly thought that they would succeed last year with the insurrection in KwaZulu-Natal. I think it was a test case to show, you know, what can be done. And I think they learned all the lessons they needed to from what happened in response to the government last year, both the bureaucracy, the intelligence services, the political leadership, the SANDF and SAPs, all of which failed miserably. And I think some of that was intentional and by design by people who obstructed things from happening. All of that happened. And South Africans should be terrified of their government, which any 7-year-old could have predicted was going to happen. Look, I mean, I predicted on June 29th last year exactly what was going to happen. Not the numbers. I didn't expect to see 150,000, 200,000 people looting stores, but I did expect to see violence, chaos, and, you know, home invasions and murders and looting. I expected all that, and I predicted it. It's still on this channel. People can go back and watch it. June 29th last year, when the Concord said that Zuma was in contempt of court and he must go turn himself in by the 4th of July. And if he doesn't turn himself in by the 4th of July, the police commissioner and the minister must pick him up and turn him into the correctional facility by the 8th of July. I predicted all this. And then, you know, the government willfully sat back and watched it happen. That should terrify South Africans. You have an illegitimate government that doesn't care about your welfare, your safety, and your interest. Whether you're black or colored or white, it doesn't matter. Indian, they don't care about you. Wake up, South Africans. Wake up. Wach auf, as we say in German. You need to wake up because this government doesn't care about you. They care about themselves and their privilege, and they don't care how far South Africa falls. And I think it's because, in part, they're just stupid. They don't realize that a country in flames is not a country, unless their plan is to, you know, move to the UK. They're going to take all the money they steal and move to the UK. But they don't care about you. And even if they do care about you, they're not competent enough to respond to your needs. Look at the floods in KZN. One of the reasons why the floods were so bad isn't just the record rainfall, which was pretty heavy, by the way. It's also because the storm drains hadn't been cleaned. They were clogged up. The water had nowhere to go. So that exacerbated the situation. And then emergency services couldn't get from one place to another. And then what do we see? The premier getting a water truck at his house when other people aren't. And that just tells you everything you need to know about the ruling government. They're there for them. They're not there for you. I don't care what your skin pigmentation is. I don't care what your religious orientation is. I don't care what your ethnic origin is. These criminals don't care about you, and you need to realize that and make plans for it. You got to make plans to deal with it. Just like the people defending their homes last year. You got to do something.
Yeah, of course, that is exactly what my full-time work nowadays, almost full-time, is about. And that is exactly to prepare for that day when all hell breaks loose here in South Africa.
Yeah, no, it's, and you know, the scary thing, Viant, is that 3 years ago, the conversation we're having, most people would say, now, neither one of us are calling for or predicting, we're just concerned about this. But 3 years ago, this conversation, we'd have been called nutters, right-wing fanatics, simply because we're pointing out the failure of the state and inability or unwillingness to protect the people, whether it's law enforcement or it's security. We'd have been nutters. Now, a lot of people have opened their eyes and realized what we're saying is actually true. You see it every day right around you. You see, okay, load shedding's announced, and then the power's supposed to come back, but there's no power. So you call ESCOM. Well, the reason there's no power is because someone stole the cables. And in broad daylight, they go out and cut the cables down. There's no consequences. Total lawlessness. And, you know, not to mention the violence, the break-in homes. And if you defend yourself, then you're the criminal. You know, and the way that people are killed in South Africa, it's not just shootings. It's stoning to death, you know, raping women and bludgeoning them. It's throwing babies on farms into tubs and electrocuting them. It's slicing the throats of pregnant women from ear to ear or 4 months pregnant. It is you know, bashing suspected child molesters with cinder block. It's really disgusting. The total lack of respect for life.
But that is an African thing.
Yeah.
If we go back to the Congo in the 60s.
Oh, yeah. Cannibalism.
Everywhere, the people are being hacked to pieces with machetes, with pangas.
Yep.
The brutality that goes with the violence don't exist in the rest of the world. it exists in South Africa.
There are
Or in
exceptions.
Africa.
There are exceptions, but yes, by and large, people just kill people. The violence, the brutality comes with it, and it's really twisted. It's absolutely twisted. The Congo. That's what happened in the Congo in 1960 is a dress rehearsal for what came in much of Africa later for that. And it's one of the reasons why the National Party had the whole frontline state mentality. And you got to stop this stuff. You can't let it come down. And your door came open a while ago. It just swung open on its own. You got a poltergeist.
Let me just close it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so no, it's folks, if you don't know the history of the Congo, take a look at the history of the Congo. I mean, absolutely horrific. People attacked the Belgians for their role there, and you can certainly criticize the Belgians for their role in the Congo when it belonged to King Leopold and their colonial rule of it. You can criticize the Belgians, their lack of preparing Congolese for rule. That's all fair, all legitimate criticisms. But what isn't fair is to ignore what happened in the spasm of violence that occurred to black Congolese and to those who were white that happened. The gang rapes, the beheadings, the cannibalism that took place, the burning of people in churches, burning them alive, locking them in the building, the horrific things that happened in the Congo. And when the Belgians intervened and when mercenaries intervened in the eastern part, in the Kivus and Ituri, to save people, they were criticized. But what was happening there is beyond the pale, folks. The Congo should be an abject, well, not abject, but a clear lesson for people to see what happens when lawlessness is allowed to reign. And we're going to see that if the South Africa doesn't get its act together. It's just crazy what's going on. I mean, unless you are violating a corona lockdown rule, there's no consequence in South Africa. But God forbid you go out of your house during lockdown without a permit to go to the store, you're going to be arrested and criminalized, so you can't leave the country, you can't take your assets, and you can't get a job. But, shoot somebody, rape somebody, and just get away with it with impunity. It's just crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have one of our viewers here who grew up in the Congo. Her family knew Moses Chombe in Katanga. She lived in Katanga, and Chombe helped her and her family get out when she was a little girl. That's Erica. She's from the Congo originally with Swiss-French parents. Grew up there. So, yep. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is true. But, not only in the Congo, it happened at the start of the civil war in Angola as well. Things that was not being told by the press because they couldn't believe that people can do the things that they were accused of. And, we saw this thing coming over the last couple of years, and we are getting closer and closer to that situation in South Africa. And Chris, there's no country south of us to go to.
Nope. There's nothing there. There's nothing below you. St. Helena is not an option, and Antarctica is not an option. So that's it.
If we look at Kabul with the withdrawal of your troops there, then I can see Oliver Tambo Airport, Cape Town Airport, all those major airports, exactly the same scenarios, except there won't be C-17s from the United States Air Force around. But that's what we are going to see. So there's almost no way out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That make it more dangerous for us here in the southern tip of Africa. And yes, we can say we hope it don't happen. We can say, well, we believe it's not going to happen. We can do whatever we want, but we got to be prepared. Because if it happens, and it is going to happen, then we got to be ready. Because you must remember all statements made by government officials, by Julius Malema and other leaders, are only blaming the whites. They are not blaming the coloreds. They are not blaming Indians. They are not blaming black people for the situation that we are in. They are blaming the whites. We haven't called for the killing of the whites yet.
Yep.
That's what Julius Malema said.
Yep.
He didn't say the rich. He didn't say the upper class or what else. He specifically targeted a specific race.
Well, he's actually amended that now, and that was in his interview with Hard Talk. And this is what I warn people. I said, today it's whites, tomorrow it's this group, it's that group. And in his Hard Talk conversation, he said, he cloaked it as if he was just giving an analysis of this unled revolution that's coming. It'll be the whites and the black elites. That's what he said. So he's expanded it now, and that's what exactly what I said. It's kind of like Germany, the Nazi Germany, in the old story that when they came for the Jews, I was silent. When they came for the Catholics, I was silent. When they came for the communists, I was silent because I'm not a communist, I'm not a Jew, I'm not a Catholic. When they came for the aristocracy, I'm just an average person. I didn't care. But then they came for me. I looked around, and there was no one to defend me. And that's exactly what's happening here. So he's already modified that, and he's talking about other people. Yeah, it's scary stuff. These people are just fascist.
Yeah, if a miracle happens and somehow the country is being rescued in one or other way, it will be great. Mm-hmm. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat says, be careful, you'll be censored on YouTube. There's nothing I've talked about here that's been inaccurate, that violates any community standards for South Africa. Just telling the truth here. Now, and as far as stuff working its way towards South Africa, the violence and the brutality, a lot of people don't realize this, they haven't paid attention to this, but in Cabo Delgado, earlier this year and last year, we had these ghouls hacking people apart, black Africans whom they murdered, body parts dumping in wheelbarrows. There's footage of this. This isn't staged. Yeah. This isn't deep fake. It's real. It happened in Cabo Delgado. And it finally got people to intervene, but they intervened years after the fact. I've been warning for half a decade that Cabo Delgado is headed this way and there's a threat. And it was ignored by the Mozambican authorities, who have virtually no control in Cabo Delgado. And the FATM, which was up there, they were there, but they were defending Total's facility. They weren't actually patrolling the countryside. And that's why this relatively small group of lunatics is able to do this. And they're not really ISIS. They call themselves ISIS. They're just a bunch of ghouls who are criminals and bandits who claim they're allied to these groups so they get attention. And how can anybody chop a human being apart into pieces and dump them in a wheelbarrow? It's sick. It's twisted. And these are people that there's nothing you can do with them except exterminate them. That's all you can do.
Oh, well, okay, you said it, I didn't. But if you look at what they are doing to the animals, they hack the rear legs with the machete.
Yeah, so they can't run.
They can't run. And if the farmer found them in that state, he don't have other choice than to shoot it.
Yep, it's the only humane thing to do.
But that is the indication of the violence of which I don't have the heart. Mm-hmm. To do that to a dog, or to anything.
Yeah. No,
most people.
It comes down to, and this is what's frightening about for those who don't know the story of Hannah Cornelius, and she's a white girl, but we could take this with a black girl in South Africa, and we've got plenty of examples. Tsetsefale Pule, who was murdered by her murder for hire. Her boyfriend, who was married, found it inconvenient that she was 9 months pregnant and going to have the baby, so she was stabbed to death and hung from a tree. She's Tswana, black South African. But let's just take the story of Hannah Cornelius, a young lady, a gorgeous, beautiful young lady with a kind heart. Her friend, who was colored, they were out. They're university students. He was going home. She didn't want him to be on the street unsafe, so she offered him a ride in her car, gave him a ride back to his place. They jump in the car with a screwdriver. They drive around these thugs. They take him out to the vineyards near Stellenbosch. They drop a boulder on his head and leave him for dead. And they think he's dead. He manages to survive. He has a horrific life now. But and then they take her and they want to rape her. There's 4 or 5 of them. And she says, okay, look, just do what you have to. I won't fight you. Rape me. I won't fight you. Please don't kill me. So they rape her for hours and hours and hours and gang rape her. And then they take a boulder that weighs like 70 kgs or something like that, something like 70 pounds, 40 kgs. And they dropped it on her head and bludgeon her to death with it. For what? And then when they're tried, they laugh about it. They laugh. When the evidence is shown in court, they think it's funny. They don't care. This is sick. The lack of respect and for dignity of human life is unbelievable. How does a culture white, black, yellow, green, blue, whatever culture is, Muslim, Christian, atheist, how does any culture devalue life to such a level that someone could bring themselves to do that? And I don't want to hear that they were high or they were drinking. They knew what they were doing, and they weren't high and drinking when they were in court, and they were laughing about how it was told about how one of them, testified, and he said how they raped her repeatedly. They weren't high then, and they thought it was funny. This is a sick, twisted world. And this is the reason why you have to have rule of law. You have to have morals. You have to have morality. You must have law enforcement. You must have criminal justice. And you must have the military. Because the nature of Homo sapiens, there's a dark side to a percentage of our population, regardless of where we come from, that reverts to this bestial conduct. And it's frightening, Wyatt. It's really frightening.
Yeah, you referred to the fact that the government didn't give a lot of attention to Cabo Delgado. Mm-hmm. They wasn't actually able to control it or have a law and order to it. But isn't that exactly what is happening in the whole of South Africa if we look at the police?
Yeah, fair point.
Aren't we at exactly the same spot now as where the people of Cabo Delgado have been? If we look at the government response, the ability of the government, the ability of the military, they can't protect us.
No, they can't. They also don't have the political will to do it. I mean, that's another problem. Even if they had the capacity, they don't have the will. I mean, you can have a military and a police that are capable, but if they stand by and let things happen because they don't have the will, you got a problem. So right now, you don't have the capacity. And then number two, you don't have the will. This is a government that I think doesn't care. And there's a faction. There are people in the South African government who are actively working against the interests of South Africans because it's in their interest to support the radical economic transformation and to bring the whole thing down, to nationalize the mines, to expropriate all the property, to do all the things they want to do because they think that's the answer because they for whatever reason, they have a weird mindset or worldview, or they're just, I don't know, just horrible people. But it's a disaster of epic proportions, and it's on people's doorstep. But again, the good news for South Africans is that a lot of people finally are opening their eyes. It's a shame it took this long. I mean, my eyes were open long ago. Look, I don't like Thabo Mbeki. I think he's a small-minded individual who has a race issue. And, but he was a technocrat, and there was some legitimacy to some of the economic policy, some, not all, that was going on. And South Africa saw some modest growth during his time as president. But it was pretty clear to me when the Polokwane massacre occurred, which is what I call the ANC's party conference, and he was unseated, that the ANC didn't care about governing South. They didn't care about, righting historical wrongs. They don't care about equality, freedom, and justice. They don't care about the Freedom Charter of 1955, which they claim credit for, which they had almost no role in. They only care about themselves. And it became pretty obvious the moment Jacob Zuma was selected as president and he came in office, and every day in office, it just reinforced it. And it hasn't changed. Ramaphosa is just another idiot of a different stripe. And the ANC, it's only going to end badly for the ANC. It really is. Are you reading the chat? You don't know what to say. What else can you say, right? There you go. That's the best answer right there. What else can you say?
But I want to ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who else is there to govern better?
That's a good question. You mean that has a realistic chance of doing it, or who has the right platform? That's a fair question. I'm asking back to you.
Yeah.
Because there's two different answers. There's two different answers. You want me to answer those? Yeah. I'll answer my own questions.
No. The point I'm trying to make is that the ANC light, the DA, will make definitely improvements. Mm-hmm. But with all the resources gone, plundered, Eskom finished, it's going to be a hard boat to turn around. And then we must remember, are they going to be accepted by the masses? Somebody the other day said, no, but we don't have to worry about Malema because he's a very small group and his support is dwindling, etc. The counter question in that case is, show me one revolution in the world that started with a large group.
Yeah, look at the Nazis.
It always started with one person with the idea and his friends, and then it starts growing out.
Yep. That's a fair point. I mean, you look at all of them. Look at the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, same thing.
Exactly. I mean, look how Castro started these revolutions. But, and there's the problem in South Africa, is it seems impossible to turn this whole thing around. And each and every day become more and more evident that in the end we will have to physically fight for our survival.
Yep. And the thing is that most people aren't prepared to do that. They have no idea how to do that.
Exactly. F.W. de Klerk in 1994 said that he had saved South Africa from a bloodbath just so that we can relive the same threat 28 years later.
With one
now we are going to see a bloodbath.
With one major difference. The people who will be the primary target of the bloodbath overwhelmingly had control of rule of law, security forces, and the tools and leverage of the state. So if a bloodbath had come then, the chances for survival would have been greater, plus the numbers of people, than they are today. Because today, the minority is by and large weak, powerless, and out of power and out of influence, and can only control and influence what's in your immediate sphere. So I think that's a major difference.
Yeah, but that minority got the will, the skill, and the means to do it.
Yeah.
Not the means, sorry, the will and the experience to rebuild.
Yep.
We will be able to rebuild South Africa, but it's going to ask one hell of a sacrifice of our people, especially the minority group. But anyway, Chris, this is
well, that's Well, let me just address something in the chat here real quick. Michael Lawson saying it's a neat strategy. It's a bit boring to know what's repeated ad nauseum. Well, okay. First off, Michael, if you reveal strategies, you become a target. So some strategies aren't to be revealed in public. Number one. Number two, strategies that are meant for protecting oneself can be falsely interpreted or misused against people by governments. So that's another consideration. Number three, actually, I've offered solutions to South Africa's problems endlessly in prepared videos, in interviews, and on this program endlessly about how you right this ship. The problem is that South Africans don't take responsibility for their own situation. You had a chance in October or November of 2021 to right this ship and save South Africa, and people stayed home. 31% of eligible voters out of 39 million eligible voters in South Africa, only 10.5 million even bothered to show up for an election. The Democratic Alliance from 2016 to 2021 went from 4 million and 4 voters to 2.5 million voters. They lost 37% of their voters. They shed voters like corona particles, shedding viral particles. Unbelievable. It was a disaster. And then they tried to put a spin on it and said, we were the only party that did well. What? The ANC only lost 32% of its voters. You lost 37%. It's a disaster. They lost control of municipalities in the Western Cape they've controlled for 20 years. They've lost it. And now they've got, Gate McKenzie and the Patriotic Alliance forming coalitions in places where they should have been ruling. So South Africans have a chance to fix things, and we've offered solutions here. So, Michael, I appreciate your comments that it's frustrating to hear the same thing over and over again. But it's also important to have these conversations. It's cathartic for some people, just to hear people hear that someone knows about this situation, is doing something about it, and is prepared to deal with it. So, Michael, thank you for your comments there. I do appreciate it. But, you can't take one conversation on one day out of context with the body of work that's been done by Toit on his program and by the body of work that's been done on this program to bring attention to the crisis in South Africa and also talk about solutions and paths forward. And I think that's important to state. So I don't know, do you agree or disagree with what I just said there, Viant?
No, I I agree 100%. You know, the biggest thing is, for my side, I work on an emergency initiative. We are the only people in the world ever to have created an organization to save lives in the case of anarchy. We are the only ones in the world. Nobody else is prepared. Not even Ukraine has done it. They don't exist something like that. Because we have to create a place. Because there's no country to ourselves. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
But now people come and they want to know more detail. It is as if they keep on fishing for things that you cannot say, and things that, like you said, pose a risk. Because a guy like Becky Shelley don't need a lot
Nope.
to move if he decides to do it.
Yep.
Once again, easy targets.
Yep.
Not a difficult target. Easy targets. So we cannot, with a good conscience, expose people to the full plan of how to survive.
Yep.
But first, before you can establish some kind of law and order, you must first survive. And then you must follow the principles, which you and I know very well. Combination of effort. All right? The effective use of force, and that means numbers, not the force by means of what you have, but by numbers. And if we just stick to those 10 or 12, I think the United States got 14 principles. I'm not going to say what principles, because then I'm in the danger zone. But we have to stick to that. It has been working from Clausewitz, Sun Tzu. They all speak about the same principles which we must follow to be successful. Now, if we want to be successful, we must survive. And survival is the first step when anarchy breaks out. And if people can understand that the police and the military cannot provide you that security to stay alive, that you will have to do it yourself, then we have reached a couple of people tonight.
Yep, absolutely. Well said. You know,
be prepared.
Be prepared. And here's the other thing too, is that people have to understand something. Crowds, which can form pretty quickly, not just in urban areas, but crowds have a dynamic all their own. There's extensive fields of study into crowd reaction and crowd dynamics. And I mean, look at what soccer hooligans have done at stadiums, and people have been crushed to death, concerts. I myself have been caught up this in Liberia, in which a crowd of about 50 people became 5,000 in a matter of just a couple of minutes. And I mean 3 to 5 minutes, and suddenly surrounded by people like bees buzzing around trying to flip over my armored vehicle. And not because I'm in it, because that's just the reaction of the crowd. They were angry at something else and they started attacking vehicles there. And I can either run over people and escape and kill people, or grievously injure them, or ride it out. And fortunately, in this case, the police managed to break through the line and let the vehicles in where they were into a log or a safe area there. But it happened so fast. And here's the thing that people need to understand. We all have fears. And you don't know how you're going to react when you're put in that situation. Those of us who served in combat have an appreciation, or those who've served in a situation where you're confronted by an armed situation or your life is put in jeopardy, you may have a feel for what's going to happen. But most people have never been in that situation. And you have to be prepared for the worst. You have to be prepared to be disciplined, because your actions can have grievous consequences for your own safety and for your loved ones if you're not prepared. And that's why it's important to talk about these things as well, is so that, people are vulnerable. This is why I've always talked about rural insecurity. When some clown wants to go out in July here in Pennsylvania and light your wheat field on fire, it's all dry, waiting to be harvested. And in a matter of 5 minutes, they can wipe out your entire income for a season just because they're malicious and may never even be caught. Now, put that in a place where people are trying to foment insurrection, like in Gauteng or the Northwest, where they torch your maize fields as you're about to harvest them. Or they torch your barns like they did in the Free State after Senegal in 2020. Folks, you've got to be prepared for the worst. You've got to be provisioned for the worst. You've got to have expectations on how to deal with it. And I think that's all we should talk about the topic. But I think the conversation is worthwhile. And I get to see Ron is back here from the Netherlands. I haven't seen Ron for a long time. He's using a different username, but I recognize the fact he's speaking in Dutch instead of Afrikaans. It's a pretty big tip off there. I know that's Ron. Welcome back, Ron. Anyway, let me change the topic for a second. Is that okay? Let's get off this stuff because it's depressing. Okay? Let me do this here real quick. Let me see if I've still got it here. If I've got it, that's not it. Come on, where'd it go? Man, when I'm looking for it, it's not there. I was just going to put something up here. Let me try to bring it up again real quick and see if I can find it here. I had it before this broadcast. Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. All right, so there we go. All right, so that's something more positive. You see my background now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nelsprit, Umbumbela Stadium. All right, Springboks. Let me get your thoughts on the game, and then I'll share my thoughts. Did you watch the game? I assume you did.
Yes, I did.
And?
I did watch it. It was one of the better performances from the Springboks in the last couple of years. Very close to what they did with the World Cup, the last World Cup. And in the state that they have been playing, they can beat any team in the world. Now, there is people that's going around saying, yeah, but the All Blacks are not in shape and they are not as good as they used to be in this specific team. But an All Black is an All Black. And you only need that background, that tradition of winning, of we are the best. And it changed everything. If they have succeeded in scoring one try earlier in the match, we might have seen a totally different result.
Mm-hmm.
And we mustn't take away from the Springboks anything by saying, okay, the All Blacks was weak. Give the credit to the Boks because they overshadowed the All Blacks in almost every phase of the game. The surprise for me of the game, of course, was gone in 60 seconds. I see there's what's that movie called Gone in 60 Seconds?
The Gone in 60 Seconds. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they got now a photo. What's this guy's name? Very well-known actor.
Vin Diesel?
No.
Okay.
He plays in Face Off as well. Fun.
Oh, that's no. He's the nephew of the director. What's his name? Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage. Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, yeah. Nicolas Cage. They got a photo of Nicolas Cage with the ad of Gone in 60 Seconds and then Faf's face next to it.
Oh, man.
Because
that was a scary moment, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It was great that we saw him later in the stadium walking around and waving at the people. And then, of course, Max played a very, very good game. And the guy that is starting to surprise me is the 8th man, who have now played Visa. Played in a couple of games.
Yep.
Very steady, very reliable. And then the surprise of the game, of course, Arendse, the new guy.
Oh, he's great, but it's unfortunate the way it ended for him.
Yeah. But it will give him good time to think. 4 weeks.
Yeah, he won't do that again in the World Cup next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
Instead, he was one of the best there in the back line. And that was good. It was also good to see Willie come on and scored the last try.
Yeah, but it cost me my Super Brew pool. I predicted a 9-point victory, and that's what it was until he picked up that ball and scored a try. So I went from first in my pool to fourth. Yeah, no. Yeah. Well, your analysis is pretty much exactly what I said because I call the game on my other channel, Rugby Ascendant. I do live play-by-play and color commentary. A lot of people watch on the Super Sport, put the TV on mute and listen to me. But I said exactly that. This was, hands down, the best team performance by the Springboks since they beat England in the World Cup. There's no question about it. The turgid, boring British and Irish Lions series with no fans in the stands last year was just so lame. The loss to England was so unnecessary at the end of last season. And then the Wales series was weak. It was weak. We could have lost all 3 games. We're lucky to escape with 2 victories there. But this was how this team can play. And yeah, I agree. Malcolm Marks was unbelievable in his 50th Test match. But the All Blacks, as I always tell people, you cannot take your foot off the accelerator. If you've got your foot on the throat of the All Blacks, you keep it there until that referee blows his whistle after the hooter and says it's over. I've seen the All Blacks come down against a team trailing 19 points and score 3 converted tries in less than 5 minutes to take a game away from a team in the past. That's their culture. They never give up.
Well, that's how we lost most of our games against.
Exactly. You had the lead and then just took your foot off the gas and you just let them come back and went away with it. And they do it time and again. So this game was just brilliant across the board, everything. And this wasn't, I mean, there are players who could and should have been in that starting 15. Evan Ruiz could be out there as a number 8 and do a fantastic job. And a lot of other players who aren't there. Now, the one thing we're missing, and I hope he comes back soon from the broken jaw, is Cheslin Colby. He is just a little dynamo. But Curtly Arendse, I said it playing for the Bulls. He should be on this team. He just got his second cap, and it's unfortunate the red card. But look, I don't think the official had any choice. I mean, it was the right call, the red card. It was dangerous. It was reckless, and it wasn't his intent. But intent doesn't matter. It's how you execute. But this team, as it currently sits right now, if they play like that, nobody can beat them. The only team that can challenge them globally right now, if they play that level, is France if they're having a good day. Otherwise, they win every game. It's as simple as that. The problem is that can they keep that going? And we'll see if they can. We'll see if they can. But it was fantastic performance. Good.
And of course, what was very nice was the full stadium.
Oh, yeah. And also the singing of the anthem was incredible, too. Everyone singing the anthem was brilliant.
Yeah, and but yeah, the support is there, everything is there. It was just great to see everybody back doing their thing, enjoying it. And I only watched with my family here at home. Mm-hmm. And my eldest kid was in the stadium.
Oh, cool. That's right. I think you told me that, Yeah, no, I wish.
So they said every 5 minutes they send a photo. They say, listen, don't worry. We see the game better than you are seeing it.
Yeah, because of TV. Yeah, exactly. No, but it's again. I originally had hoped to make this trip a little over a week sooner, because I intended to go to Ellis Park for the game this coming weekend. But originally, I had a consulting gig this week. I was supposed to be teaching by distance, and then the government canceled that thing. So I'd already made my plans. So I'm going to watch the game here this coming weekend, and then on Monday start my journey towards South Africa. It'll be a long journey going through Germany and then finding my way down to Cape Town. But yeah, so we're just a week away, a little over a week away from my arrival down there. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the plan you've put in place for Uppington, the meet and greets for people all over the country. Folks, if you want to come and meet me, just chat with me, just say hi. You're welcome to do it. If you just want to come by and listen to what's being discussed, you're welcome to do it. We'll do some live streams at some of those events. Others won't, because we'll talk about things that PooTube will censor, so we don't want to put that on there. But anyway, people are welcome to come meet me. I look forward to it. I have a schedule that is bone crushing in its ambition, all the places I'm going. But I've added 2 segments to the trip because of the loyal support for the program and for people who followed me since I started doing what I'm doing now a couple years ago. And so that meant that I'm going to Bloemfontein, which wasn't in the plan. So I'm going to the Free State. That's been added. That takes time. And then also to the Eastern Cape, I'll go to Nelson Mandela Bay, and I'll take in the Garden Route on my way there. So those 2 events eat up 5 days. 5 days. I originally intended to spend 3 of those in the Western Cape and 2 of those in Gauteng. So because of that, everything's very tight. So folks, if you want to participate, if you want to come along and see things, you need to pay attention. Join the Telegram group or the WhatsApp group for the announcements and the schedules coming out, and you'll find it there. That's the best way to be informed of what's going on. And if things go well, I'll be in South Africa, or on my way to South Africa not at this time next week. I'll be on my way to the airport here. Yeah. So I'll be driving the airport right now, a week from today. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, folks, thanks a lot. So Wyatt, as always, bye-bye, Donkey. It's a real pleasure. Anything you want to wrap up with before we close? Let me take down that stadium picture. Oh, that's a nice picture, isn't it? I love those clouds.
The what?
I said, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful picture.
Beautiful picture.
There we go.
But listen, Chris, now I'm looking forward to your visit. I think it will be very productive. I think you will go back with also a little bit of insight on our side and how we see things, playing out. But the best will be just the social, the be together, the sharing of ideas and everything. We are looking forward to it.
Me as well. And not just Uppington, although I'm very excited about Uppington, but also the whole thing, all these folks I'm going to get a chance to meet. I'll be touring Durban, looking at the flood damage. I'll be looking at Phoenix for where the trouble happened in July last year. And I'll be a few other places I've never been for, like the Garden Route in the Eastern Cape. So it should be fascinating. And I look forward to it, folks. I'll be filming documentaries. I'll be videoing. One of the things I'm doing in the Western Cape is I'm interviewing the CEO of Groot Constantia, the oldest vineyard in South Africa. And we're doing a documentary there. That's kind of cool. Lots of things happening. Good.
Did you know that Uppington got the second largest winery in the world?
I didn't know there were any wineries in Uppington at all. I thought it was too dry. Are they taking water from the Orange River?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is the second largest winery, wine cellar, call it what you want, in the world.
I had no idea.
Some surprises. If you look carefully behind me, there is a thing standing in the corner.
Okay.
That's yours. Fortunately, you can't see what very nice now. But inside is going to be of that fruits of the valley, which is being grown here next to the river.
Yep. Cool beans.
Which you can take back to the United States.
All right.
So don't bring too much stuff with you because you're going to take a lot of stuff back.
Yeah, I know. I realize that. So I'm limiting to just a few pairs of cargo trousers and some shorts and things like that. A hoodie, in case it's chilly, that sort of thing. I'm limiting what I'm carrying because I also anticipate taking back books. Whenever I go to South Africa, I go to exclusives. I used to go to CNA if they're still around, and I buy a bunch of books that are published in South Africa. And so yeah, I expect to be coming back some things. But also I'm bringing a few things along with me to share with a few folks. Not a lot, but a few things. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. Yes, Charles van Onselen, there will be T-shirts. Speaking of which, maybe you could see if there's any interest. What I'll do is if I get the template of what it looks like, but I'm going to have a Colonel's tour with a picture of myself in fatigues from a few years back of South Africa. We're going to have that. And also we're making Not a Garden Boy tour. So I have a T-shirt that says, "I'm not a garden boy." Shut up, young man. I'm not a garden boy. That, of course, is in response to Beckett Sele recently and what he had to say. No. So if you could ask anybody who's interested in those, because I go ahead.
What I will do is we are going to have a couple of tables at the entrance, which will be there will be books, and there will be. I haven't. Okay, he's still in my office. Not this one, the other one. Yeah. Where mugs and stuff. So there's going to be a couple of tables where people are going to sell stuff. So we can put your T-shirts up there. Okay. And people can buy it. Okay. Well, what we'll do is the person is actually in the chat here with us. I saw the person earlier in the chat who's helping coordinate all this. I'll tell her about let's get a bigger order. I had a small order initially. We'll get a bigger order, and I'll either have them delivered to Uppington or I'll bring them up there with me, depending when they're done. But if you want to, you can send me some of your images and stuff, the artwork, and we can print it here.
Well, that's another option too. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, so but anyway, so the idea is we'll have some T-shirts because I know people like stuff like that sort of thing. And the idea is not for us to make a fortune; it's to recoup the costs and a little bit more, and some of that will subsidize the travel, that sort of thing. So I'm just envisioning a T-shirt costing something like 200 Rand or something like that. Just we looked at the prices. That's a reasonable price, I think, for people. But right now there's 2 T-shirts. One is the Colonel's Tour. It's gonna be a khaki shirt with me in fatigues on a beach in West Africa, wearing my fatigues. And it'll have some stuff on it. And then we have one that's not a Garden Boy tour. That's we're making fun of Beckett Chile there. So it'll have "Shut Up" on the back, and on the front it'll have the not a Garden Boy tour. A little picture of a guy who's a gardener over here. So I think people like that. So anyway, so we're going to do that. Anyway, all right. Well, we should probably wrap up. That's 2 hours. We actually went 2 hours. I was going to say we're coming up on 2 hours, but we hit 2 hours. Okay. Looking forward to seeing you. I will keep you in touch if the airlines fail me or if there's a delay so that you know what's going on and if there's a knock-on effect. I did pay for the insurance on my flights in South Africa, so worst case, I shouldn't lose my money. Should be able to rebook if something happens. But fingers crossed and hoping everything goes smoothly. And it's time for the Not a Garden Boy Tour 2022.
Great, guys. You must have a nice evening, and we are looking forward to receive you here in Uppington in the Northern Cape. And it's going to be great.
All right. Wyatt to Toit. Bye-bye, donkey. I'll let you drop yourself off there, and then I'll close up the stream, okay? All right, folks. Wyatt to Toit from Uppington, and we're looking forward to the events coming up next week. There he is. He's out. Okay. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. That one went for 2 hours. We haven't done a 2-hour one in a while, so thank you for that. How are we doing on likes? Got 172 likes, 138 people still here. Folks, look, I appreciate the comments in here, whether it was Courtney bringing the standard lines that the leftist media is putting out there, gave me a chance to refute it. Thank you for that, Courtney. Also, thank you for the super chat, Courtney. Thank you, Michael, for your point about, it gets tiring to hear the same old thing, people complaining, belly aching. Your point's well taken, Michael. I agree with it. But you have to be very circumspect about what you say on this platform, YouTube. You also have to be very circumspect about what you say if you're in South Africa. Now, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have said the same thing about America, but now you have to be circumspect about what you say in America. I mean, if you go to a parent-teacher association meeting, a PTA meeting, and you stand up and say that you're angry that the school is teaching your child that your daughter is inherently racist because she's white, and you refuse to accept that, you'll find yourself on a watch list illegally by the FBI spying on you and checking your financial records and classifying you as a domestic terrorist. I'm not making this up. So you have to be very careful about things because you follow the law, but people will mischaracterize what you're saying and doing to try to criminalize your lawful conduct. And that has been the case in South Africa for a number of years. It's certainly become the case here in America under this corrupt regime and the bureaucracy, the corrupt bureaucracy that predates this regime. So, folks, I appreciate where you're coming from, but you have to be very careful about what you say and do in this world. The fascist totalitarians will arrest people who don't say anything that violates the law, who don't foment any dissent. They'll claim that you are. So you have to be very careful about what you're saying. Anyway, just saying. Anyway, thanks a lot, folks, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit that like button. I don't think we're going to get to 200. It would have been nice to get there. And that's it. As far as the Night Owls, I might do a Telegram. By the way, announcement here for folks. I don't know if Hendo or one of the other mods is here. I have created a Telegram channel, Chris Wyatt Reports. And I'm going to use that Telegram channel to do some news broadcast. And they'll be short ones, 10 minutes or less, kind of like Morning Shot was doing. And not my regular broadcast, just to put it on Telegram. So, and then I'll download it and upload it on different platforms. So if it's safe to put on YouTube, I'll put them on YouTube. But it's something new that I'm doing in Telegram. I have groups on Telegram, but I've never had a channel that's specifically devoted to this. So we have the Chris Wyatt Reports channel on Telegram. So if you have a Telegram app and you'd like to check it out, feel free to do that. Also, if you'd like to support this channel and help out with the trip, you're welcome to do that. I'm very grateful. I don't turn away the support, whether it's helping organize meet and greets, it's recommending places to go to, and whether it is offering accommodation, which is pretty much all taken care of now, or it's offering cash to help with the trip, whatever the case is. There's the PayPal. That avoids the middleman and gets it directly in the pocket. So thank you for that. If anyone's able to do that, if you're willing to do that, I appreciate it. This isn't e-begging, just stating the fact. If you want to help out the trip, we do appreciate it. And it will lead to some really good outcomes, documentaries that'll be made, interviews, panel presentations, talking to school kids about economic opportunities in Africa, talking to people concerned about safety in South Africa, appearing on radio and television, giving giving presentations at the Reformation Society in Rondebosch, speaking at an engagement in Somerset West. It's going to be epic and wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's hopefully pull this off, and it should be pretty cool. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. Appreciate your support. God bless. Have a lovely day. And I'll be back on later on, whether it's a short. I still need to do a short about the murder of Hendrik Pistorius. I haven't done that yet. I'll probably do either a short or a prepared video on that one and just talk about that. So I need to check my mail, and I need to update some things. And we do have another, very quickly, on the tour meet and greets. Let me see. That's the meet and greets. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. Here we go. Is this the one? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, that's the one I want. So I have a new one which will come out in the groups here shortly. I'm just waiting for confirmation. I'll just give you a quick peek at it. I'm sure it's okay. But here's a quick peek. This one's from Milnerton. There you go. So this one here, this is an update. Milnerton breakfast meet and greet on Saturday, the 10th of September at the Bossa Woodbridge Island in view of Cape Town. So I'll get you an update on that. That should be correct. And that's coming up. So that's another meet and greet that we've got scheduled, and there's the venue. And it's much appreciated if you guys can RSVP to these events, because people need to get an idea how many people are going to come. And I've got, in everyone so far, I've got someone locally that's taking care of the RSVP. It won't be me, so I won't know how many people will be there. Anyway, please feel free. Cape Town, there'll be more in the area. I'll also be speaking on the 8th, a couple nights before that, at the Reformation Society in Rondebosch. There'll be a meet and greet probably in Stellenbosch on the 12th or 13th. There's more coming, but I'm getting them done as quick as I can. Rick Heron, XXX shirts. I hadn't thought about that. Do I need to get XXX shirts? I was going to get large and extra large. That covers most people. But if I need to get XX or XXX, you need to let me know. And Rick, send me an email and tell me where you're at, and I'll talk to the supplier and see about getting more. So they fight for loot. We fight for love. Let God decide who to bless on the Veld. Oh, I like that, Devet Martins. That's pretty cool. Kevin says, screw them. Who are we screwing? What did I miss? Yes to XXXL. Okay, Levin says yes to XXXL. Okay. Got some people that not push themselves away from the dinner table there. So, okay, cool beans. All right, what else? Okay, that's it, everybody. Thanks a lot. We're at 102. We're going to end it right here, 102, folks. And I'm going to play the tour video on the way out just so people can see it. And there's a new. This is the meet and greets. Now, without the one I just had, this is the meet and greets video. Catch you guys later. Thanks a lot. Hit the like button. Costs you nothing but a moment of your time. Get us close.
That was easy.
Get us close to 200 or over. And thanks a lot, folks. Take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.